vows for most people, I think it's so they don't break them. Yeah, because if you don't know them, you're not aware of what you're breaking or not. And before you go in and I mean, I couldn't find any other explanation in my mind for that. I'm not sure. So this is really doing something, with malice and on purpose and knowing that you're mistaken and you're doing this. 14 is holding that a person cannot eliminate desire, meaning achieve nirvana, following the way of the learner. That means that you can't reach Buddhahood through the practice of the Four Noble Paths or any Hinayana practice. He's saying you can't reach nirvana during the nirvana practices. It's very similar to a previous vow. And vow 14.5, which when they collected the vows, Master Shantideva didn't put it in the collection of vows because he says it's a subset of the first vow. It's actually a more specific instance of the first vow for teachers and so on that says praising yourself and putting down others, specifically about creating a schism. So it's saying, you know that what they're teaching is correct. You say that it's not. You say, follow me instead, in the hope that you can split up these people. So this specific instance, vow 14 and a half, is not grouped in the collection of the 18 root vows because it's a specific instance of the first vow. I just want to remind us that although these are very specific and very difficult to break, it is still a code that when unlocked, when practiced, when you make effort into it, will give you a result. Another thing His Holiness set up this weekend is if you want to get enlightened, you have to create the courses for enlightenment. If you want to get free from suffering, you have to put the courses. And the literature says, and the teachers that we saw at the beginning say, this is a primal course for these things. This is what turns us into Buddhas.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you go back?
I can. These are all downloadable. Is that up? No. Was that back? No. That's there. No.
Yes. One more.
One more?
Right.
There?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did you say that was like 9?
Like one. The first one was praising yourself, putting down others.
9 was easier.
9 is wrong views. Yeah? 9. So is that your answer?
No, she had a different question.
You're jumping in.
Yeah, sorry.
What's your question?
Does that have to do only with teachers or anyone praising
No,
themselves and putting down?
this is a specific instance of the first one, specific to a Mahayana teacher who's built up a Sangha, has seen a group of people over there at that Buddhist center over there, and says, don't listen to them, even though you know that they're teaching the right thing. Yeah?
Okay.
They're bad because you should listen to me. Yeah? Because you got some jealousy for that teacher or that center or some want to gain. Yeah? So it becomes a specific instance. Master Shantideva said, thinking this way will produce a result that's sucky, right? That's not very healthy. But he says it's grouped with the first one. It's actually a specific instance of the first one. Don't forget that these vows came from the collection of the sutras spread right throughout, mainly the Perfection of Wisdom sutras, and were over time collected by Master Asanga, Master Shantideva, then Tsongkhapa went back and studied what's the real meaning of this and dispelled some contradiction, and it's mainly from Tsongkhapa's text that he says, no, this really means that, I did all the study, this really means that, I went through that. And that's where all this is coming from, all the specificity is coming from Tsongkhapa around the year
1387.
1400.
1997.
So if someone is doing that in a context of their peers, does that fall under the vow of like idle talk? When you're putting down others that are...
Well, obviously, so if every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and you see yourself putting another person down with malice, with a negative state of mind, with a wish to hurt, with a wish to gain something for yourself and push them down, right? And you have some flavor of that, you must have the result of that. doing that is not breaking this vow.
So
Okay?
is there a vow for that other?
Not in the Bodhisattva, not in the root vows. Yeah?
Okay.
But yes, in the Pratimoksha vows. Right? So this is forcing us to group. So remember, the Pratimoksha vows are saying the 10 most sucky thing that us creatures that perceive ourselves as humans do is killing each other. Stop that. That removes a big chunk. Yeah? Stealing stuff that belongs from it. Stop that. Yeah? That removes, like imagine if you actually stopped the things that were being produced because of our wish to destroy life. We've had this for time without beginning. Imagine if you actually managed to stop this impulse that we think is natural human impulse. I mean, if you've ever seen Monty Python's Meaning of Life, which is highly recommended, you should, they have a whole section called, The Meaning of Life, Part 3, Killing Each Other. And it's just about people killing each other. We're forever smashing each other. It's the most extreme thing we do, and we do it to other moving creatures on the planet. Stop that. Just stop. And see what happens in your life. Then do the opposite. Take care of moving things. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to eat. Everybody wants to be warm when it's cold, cold when it's warm. Yeah? Everything.
Especially you.
Blah, blah, Hector. We're running a little late. Professing the complete opposite is a vow that says specifically you've had a direct experience of emptiness when you haven't. So breaking this vow is telling people that you've had a direct perception of emptiness or the ultimate, etc., when you have not. Obviously, saying that you have and being aware of this vow is not breaking this vow. Okay? So, how would you keep, what would be the result? Let's think about this as cause and effect. What would be the result of saying to people, I've had this amazing realization, and you know it's a lie? What would be the result of that in your stream of consciousness?
That ruin your own self.
It completely ruins any realization you're ever going to have. You're going to go, am I really having that? Not only that, any perception of any other person having a realization, like your teacher, you're going to go, they can't possibly.
Right, you would stop believing the teaching. You stop completely believing your teacher, yeah.
And it destroys. I mean, this is the philosophy of creating your world at the most subtle, finite level is the reason for these vows. So keeping this holy, obviously not advertising something will hold a certain power. When it's correct and appropriate to advise maybe a close group of students or something that you've had some kind of granted realization, granted by the goodness of the teachers, etc., to be able to say that to a specific group of people because it's needed, that's not breaking this vow. But to go around professing, oh, I know this and I've done this and I've done that, knowing it's not true, you're only destroying your own future potential for getting insight into this. It's like a lottery, guys. It's once off we get this chance. What are you going to do with the rest of this life? Yeah? So understanding, if you understand enough about cause and effect, karma, dependent origination, how things produce other things, this domino effect, and the lack of inherent existence, then these vows are like a match in a haystack. Yeah, you can turn your world into fire because you understand the production of your future world because of what you're doing right now. So this was a particular special one to not blah blah. Obviously, if you have any realizations, keep them tight and dedicate them and grow them. Accepting what belongs to the three jewels when someone presents it to you. This is very similar to stealing from the three jewels. Remember we said, you steal a statue, etc., etc. This is just receiving it from somebody else that stole it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Accepting stolen goods. So you know it is, You say, I have it. You either encourage somebody to do it or you accept it. But as soon as you've grabbed it on and said, I know it's stolen, I know it belongs somewhere else, it doesn't belong to me, but it's now mine, then you've broken this one.
Question. Is that just referring to something like physical? Or
Yeah,
could it
it's
be...
yeah, it's you can't steal the emptiness of the Buddhist mind, and you can't steal you can't steal those things. So this is a common misconception. When I first got these vows, I forgot the teaching on this one, and I was paranoid about, any idea that I might have emptiness of my mind. Is that stealing the emptiness? I mean, I had a really bizarre idea about this particular vow. The point of teaching you the specificity of these vows is, and pointing you to where to get more information, is so you take ownership about, okay, I'm going to develop that state of mind. And before you take the vows, if you take the vows, or if you've taken the vows, you should familiarize yourself by either pretending to live by the vows. Yeah? So the beautiful thing about His Holiness's teaching is that he gave everybody vows. So if you had vows, sort of reinforce them again. Bodhisattva vows is not something you can lose after death. Apparently they continue. It's the only vows that you can learn before you get them. So you use that information to say, well, what would it be like? What if I did an experiment for the next 6 months to just play as if I am this kind of being, and just see what happens? The longer you do that, the more power you build up around it. You have the freedom of not breaking it because you haven't gotten vows, but you get to experience what it's like. And then you get to see some power in them. Obviously, taking them as a vowed morality is a stronger power than just acting as if you have. We talked about that before. Instituting a bad rule. This is if you run a Dharma center, Stephen. And there's usually two types of practitioners: those that are good meditators, that do that kind of contemplative blah blah blah, and they're not necessarily scholars and writers, etc. And so you have those who practice recitation, who are really good at texts and memorizing, etc. And you have these two kinds of groups of people, and you manipulate resources by instituting a bad rule to saying all those good cushions over there, that all the meditators, because they're lazy and they're never going to get enlightened, I'm removing them and I'm giving them over here to my favorite people, who are those that recite. Yeah, so it's instituting a bad rule in that sense. So unless you're running a Dharma center, etc., and you must have the desire or anger or hatred, a dislike and anger or hatred in your heart as you're doing that. Number 18, which is like vow number 9, it doesn't require these 4 forces. It's actually giving up the aspiration to bodhicitta. Yeah?
That's what he's trying to do.
That's what you're trying to do. It's actually saying you either formally give back the vows to say, I can't keep them. Yeah? You either decide, after being a well-educated practitioner of this system, you decide of your own accord that this does not free every living being. Yeah, that I can't help everybody. There's nothing I can do to help. We're stuck in samsara for time without beginning, and it's not really worth doing. Yeah? And you destroy that vow when you have that well-formed, sustained thought around that. Similar to vow 9. So, keeping a book has become a thing in our Sangha. Keeping a book of these vows, and it looks something like, it's over there, a little book, where you choose 6 vows, and you review every couple of hours how close you came to destroying the vow. Now, I told you how hard it is to destroy a vow, and you're not likely, I don't think any of you would ever destroy any of the Bodhisattva vows. You wouldn't have that kind of intent. You wouldn't be in the room if you were trying to. But how close do we get? How close do we allow our mind to have that kind of malice or desire or ignorance and just go with the flow of human existence? So checking how close you get is not there to make you feel bad, which is what I did for 10 years, or no, for many years. It's not there for that. That's a bad Western habit. Using a new excuse to feel like crap. Oh, now I'm going to do this beautiful thing, the Bodhisattva vows, to free every living being, and then every time I do something, oh, I'm so terrible. I'm no good, I'm fat. Yeah? So it's not about that. It's about breaking that. It's about having the opportunity to say, logically, clinically, observing yourself almost like a third person and saying, do I have this nastiness in me? And I suggest you don't. But do I have something that can turn into that nastiness if I leave it unattended? So for example, for the vow of adultery, you'd go all the way up to, am I looking at sexy ads on a regular basis, which allows my mind to think that's okay. And if I think that's okay, then I might look at somebody else's spouse for a little while, and then a month goes past, and it becomes a nice habit to just check somebody out that I know is committed to somebody else. And if I've taken a vow of saying no adultery, or keeping my partner precious, talking more than appropriate, so hanging out with somebody else's spouse, and I know I have this little feeling, and I like her, and so I'm going to go hang out with her, or him, or whatever, and so you allowing that habit to continue is just checking how close you are. These are not instances for you to feel bad. These are instances for you to say, don't let that grow into its natural result. Things arise in dependence to previous thing. Use your most basic understanding of dependent origination and just say, if I keep doing that, then that'll become normal. And then to get a little buzz, I'm going to need a little more. And to get a little buzz, I'm going to get a little more. Maybe it'll take you 5 years, 6 years, and then you'll be in an inappropriate situation in regards to this vow. Now you check 6 times a day these 18 root vows, and you see how close am I really to having that nastiness in me. Do I have it at all? And in some cases you don't. So there's 3 things you do. I won't teach you the details of the book. But in essence, let's take praising yourself and putting others down. Yeah, so it'll be 9 o'clock in the morning, you open your book, and you go, did I in the last couple of hours praise myself with this desire to gain material goods, or desire to get the attention of other people and the adoration of other people, and I lied and pushed and put the other person down so I could get all that accolade? Did I ever do that in the last 2 hours? No, because I was asleep and I showered. Yeah, so I didn't. So I didn't break the vow. Yeah, what I do to combat the feeling bad habit of Westerners is I put a huge, beautiful tick next to it that says Hector was good. He didn't break it. Yeah, and then I can go and investigate about how close I got to being nasty. And I'll go, did I get close to it? And you look for an instance where you might have come close. I'm like, I actually did judge my friend over there, thinking a little bit of pride, I'm so good. And it meant that he wasn't. And there is that flavor in me. So I write that down. When I was speaking to Evan, blah, blah, blah. And then you do the opposite. You go, am I habituating a beautiful side of me that doesn't put other people down or praise oneself out of self-interest? Did I do the opposite? Did I bring other people up? Did I look for the best in Javier and tell other people how awesome Javier is? Javier's awesome, by the way. Yeah. So now,
I agree.
Yeah,
I
good.
agree with Peter.
Yeah. You agree with Peter?
That's a little dig, by the way.
I know. So then you go and feel joy. The path is about joy. It's about feeling lovely about doing good. You need to habituate that perfection. So then you sit there and you go, that's lovely to do that. I mean, it has such a beautiful effect on the world around you when you do that. And then the last part of that vow, the third step, is what can I do to either prevent myself from getting closer or to keep doing that beautiful thing I did with Javier. And then just say, well, in the next hour, secretly, I'm going to send an email to somebody about somebody else. And just say, hey, and just sneak it in there. They don't need to know what I'm doing, etc. And just go, hey, did you know Emily is so precious? She does this and that and the other. And then I've built up Emily in somebody else's heart. And that's it. Finished. Happy. And then 2 hours later you go and look at the other one. And you do that enough times until it's not a burden, it's actually a freedom. And it's a lovely freedom. Yeah? I'm going to give you a quick flavor of the 4 chains that must be present for you to break them, only to give you a flavor. Next week we'll cover them in detail. All these 4 must be present. If they are not, you did not break 16 of those 18 vows, right? For the exception of 9 and 18. You're listening. Great. So you are willing to commit it again. These are presented in 2 positives and 2 negatives. So this is one of the positives. So at any time during or after the deed, let's see, let's pick one. Someone pick one out of all the 18 I just covered. Huh?
4.
Which was?
The stealing from the angel.
Someone else in the
Stephen, look out for him, yeah?
That's amazing because it's teaching false dharma.
Yeah. Okay. No, 4 is not teaching false dharma, is it?
No, it's stealing from the 3 jewels.
Stealing what belongs to the 3 jewels.
Yeah, well, I can't count.
Oh, okay, sorry. So, if...
No, sorry, you're right. Giving up the greater way and teaching false dharma.
I just wanted to make you all feel better.
Wow.
Well,
Is it-
I can't count. So.
I can't count either. Let's have a quick look. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Where's
Huh.
5?
I don't even have it here. Here we go.
Yeah, 5 is stealing what belongs to the 3 jewels.
4 is rejecting the greater way.
Sorry.
Yeah? And
Yes.
teaching false dharma. Thank you. Apologies.
Nice.
one. Okay. Let's pick rejecting the greater way and teaching false dharma. It can be either or, so let's choose teaching false dharma because that's simple too. If at any time, so if I'm sitting here going, by the way, the new way of doing Buddhism according to my direct transmission, yeah, that I understand, and I know I'm lying, okay, is to do X, Y, and Z. If at any time during or after I have some kind of struggle against it, that I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be doing that, instantly this is not broken. Okay?
Wow.
I know, it's lovely. But it doesn't free us from making efforts, okay? So if at any time, so if you're willing to commit it again, if you're like sitting there going, I can do this over and over and over, this is amazing, and at no point did my mind come up with the struggle against it going, should I not be doing that? You know, by definition, because I just taught it, you would do that, right? You'd like, Anyway, so imagine that you didn't. Then you have absolutely no shame or consideration for others. So shame is this bad feeling about in the sake of yourself, right? And consideration for others is imagine your teacher who gave you the vows sitting next to you and you wouldn't feel bad for consideration of them, of doing the deed, if you have no shame or consideration for others, meaning you don't feel some kind of remorse or negativity before, during, and there's a question mark whether it's after or not, so I'm not sure what to teach you there because there was conflicting information in 2 sources. Some say after, some do not. So if you have at any point a kind of feeling of shame, of like I really shouldn't have done that, or if my teacher saw me do that, I really wouldn't have wanted them to see me. If you have that arise, you didn't break it, okay? If you obviously don't have that at all, I'm like, I'm proudly teaching terrible crap over here. I know about it, and look at all them suckers, I'm so happy, yeah? Then you're close to breaking. You enjoy doing the wrong deed. So if you have at all any kind of regret during it, so let's say sexual misconduct, right? So you're actually committing the deed. You see yourself in the middle of the deed. You're overwhelmed by desire and you're halfway through that naughty deed, yeah? If during that deed you are not really enjoying it, if you have this feeling of, I really shouldn't be doing this, but I can't stop myself, then you didn't break the vow, yeah?
No.
No.
You're doing bad karma.
Yeah.
You're still getting the negative.
Thank you.
karma.
Can you repeat that?
You're still getting the negative.
You're still
karma.
going to get the result of that. So it's not like, hey, it's free for all. So it's, you can understand the sensitivity around getting too familiar with these. It's like, oh, I'll never break them, so I can do anything I want. It's not the point. The point is to hold yourself up to this standard to see how you can your life can change. The last one is you do not consider the deed to be wrong. So you have no doubt at all and no thinking at all before or during the deed, and some texts say after, about having done one of those 18 things, yeah, and you don't think it's wrong. And you stay by that. If you do all 4 of those, as well as all the prerequisites for the 18 vows, then you have committed a breaking of a vow. If you've taken the vow. So there's like all these vows beforehand. Of course, if you do any of it that's negative in intent or awareness, you must have the result of that. So I reiterate, the purpose of these things is to give you a positive, beautiful, growing experience, not a restraining, holding back, silly experience. They are to free you, not to hold you down. These are all the rules. Obviously, a lot of purification can happen. We talked about the purification process before. If you know you've come close, so having a good either general or specific purification of the 4 forces about a specific or general deeds is important. I'll review and cover that next week, as well as the 4 attitudes that we must have. The point of these 18 is that they are our doorway to having a completely different experience of whatever practice we already have. So if we're in ACI 7, you've got some kind of awareness about refuge. You know enough about emptiness. You know some about karma. If you do not, you should build that up. At this point, and if you've got a practice, you've got a meditation practice, etc., and you want to escalate that practice, either recommit yourself to your Bodhisattva vows or consider taking them as a wish from your teachers or whoever it is that you see as holding them tight and beautiful. Or at least, because this is the doorway to enlightenment. One last thing. Out of all, so if you commit those 4, you break the deed. If you commit the first of the previous 4, which was, I apologize for the slow and bad.
You're willing to commit it again.
You want to do it again.
The 4 chains, right? So if you're willing to commit it again, and you're fine with that, you're not redeemed from the vow, right? You're willing to commit it again, but you have any of the other regret or so on for the others, then it becomes a secondary offense and not a breaking of the group vow. Yeah? 1 or 2 of the others. So if you hold number 1, meaning you're willing to commit it again, I'm pretty sure that's correct, and you have 1 or more of the others, then it becomes a secondary offense. And to fix a secondary offense, you have to gather a group of 3 people that you respect, like your teachers and your close friends, and you have some kind of confession with them to restore that. You didn't break the vow, you did a secondary offense. It's not as severe, but it's still, you want to stop the causes of that negative karma quickly. If you don't have the first one but have any of the other 3, it's a lesser breakage of a secondary offense, which means you have to gather 1 friend and go and have some kind of intimate confession to destroy the effects of that karma.
Can you have the second one? Because, I mean, if you have shame at any point,
Before or
if
during.
you are willing to sit down and rectify it by telling 3 people that you respect, then you are already having shame of the action. Right?
Well,
You might understand that it's wrong and still not feel shameful about
yeah.
it.
So you might say, I've got to keep my vow, and you're really uncertain. So it's not about sticking to the rule because the rule says. It's about understanding where you're at in the process and committing to that process. Yeah. We'll cover this and the purification in more detail. I'm sorry to keep you so long. We'll do 1 dedication of any goodness. Sorry there was no time for more answering questions. Are we there yet? Here we go. Yeah, we go.
Sashi
Buki Jushin Metotram Rira Linchin Degempadi Sange Shindu Mite Gurwari Dropunamda Shimla Shupasho Hidam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami
Gewadi
Gyoku Sunam Yeshe Sotsok-shin Sunam Yeshe Lejumwe Damba Guni Jopashok.
Happy birthday
To you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Hector. Happy birthday to you. To you. Thank you, everybody. I'm really grateful that you come to these classes. It's a precious thing. And like the video I showed at the beginning, you really are the next generation of this specific lineage. There's nobody else. Yeah, at least in New York. Which means whatever you hold in your heart, practice it and share it to others. Thank you for the birthday wish. Yeah. May you live long and prosper. Oh look, I met the Dalai Lama. I'm just rejoicing and dedicating. I'm also playing. I did not try. I just wanted to unbreak that.
Yeah.
What's this, Steve?
I don't know.
3 Joules AA. Oh, it's AA meeting. Okay.
Hector, are we announcing for?
Oh, what do you think?
I don't know, we didn't talk about it.
Let's do it next week. Yeah. Okay. Dan, sorry.
Shiva and like, I'm doing that.